10:45, October the 18th, 2023. Amanda and Clay started their podcast about John Carpenter's The Fog. And then they hit a rock and sank into the ocean. How's everybody doing? This is the Rotten Horror Picture Show, the horror movie podcast about films off the Rotten Tomatoes 200 Best Horror Movies of All Time list. My name is Clay. With me, as always, is Amanda. Amanda, how you doing?
I'm doing fine.
Avast, ye matey.
I just want to apologize to everyone in advance that I am no Stevie Wayne.
Well, much like Stevie Wayne, most people don't know what you look like. So,
hey, points for me.
was that insulting? That wasn't meant to be insulting.
No, I think I was being insulting to myself.
Okay.
Yeah.
We are. This is our wild card episode. And we are doing, This is Amanda's pick. We are doing.
Yes, it is.
John Carpenter's The Fog from 1980. This is not on our list. It has a 75% Rotten Tomatoes score with a 65% audience score. Amanda.
Yes, Clay.
What made you pick this movie as your wild card?
Because I love it.
Okay.
No, I have a real soft spot for this movie. I feel like the first couple times I saw it, it didn't really do much for me. Mm-hmm. And then over time, it has just like endeared itself to me more and more.
Isn't that the weirdest thing?
Yeah.
Like what is it about movies where because I feel the same way about a lot of movies where it's like, I didn't really like that. And then now it's like, that's one of the 5 movies I watch all the time.
Yes. I don't know what it is. I think it can differ between different movies and how they hit you and when.
Yeah.
But I think there's something to be said for giving movies that second and third chance, maybe even.
Yeah.
You know?
I think there's something about, as much as I try to leave my expectations at the door, I think it's very difficult to go into movies as a blank slate.
Yeah.
And so if you have something you are even subconsciously expecting that isn't met, you might react negatively. And then when you come back around to it later and you're kind of a little bit more, you know what the movie is.
Yeah.
You're a little bit more open to what it's kind of doing.
I think that's a great point. And I think you might have just hit on part of why this has grown on me over time, because by this point, anyone who's listened to more than 2 episodes of this podcast probably knows that I love John Carpenter's Halloween. And I'm a big fan of The Thing. Those were the first 2 John Carpenter movies I ever saw.
Yeah.
And then I think I saw this one. And so coming from those 2 that are just so, I don't know, they just have such an outsized place in like horror movie canon and fandom and all of this. And then coming to The Fog, I think I had that letdown moment of like, where's the big pop? Like, where's the head turning into a spider monster, or where's Michael Myers, like, not exact, you know what I'm saying, like where's that kind of feeling? And so I think it left me not as into this movie, and then over time I think I've begun to appreciate it more for what it is, which is a ghost story.
Yes. Yeah, I think with Carpenter, especially if you're looking at his big movies, there's a certain relentlessness to the pace at a certain point, which this movie does have a little bit. But like Halloween, once that gets going, is pretty intense.
Yeah.
Escape from New York, guys running around, over the top, campiness, machine guns and stuff. The Thing, big gross monster movie,
and paranoia, like really intense feelings of paranoia. They
Live has all of the above.
Yeah.
And so if that's what you know about Carpenter, I think he is one of the bigger filmmakers where it kind of, you really don't know what you're going to get from him until you watch it.
Yeah.
Because you do get movies like The Fog or Prince of Darkness or Starman.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've ever seen Starman.
Starman's
pretty interesting.
We've talked about it, yeah.
Or even Christine.
Yeah. Yeah.
So he's very interesting in that regard. But we can get into a bit of that more later. Do you remember the first time you saw this?
Honestly, I don't.
Yeah, me neither.
I feel like I've seen it so many times now, but like, yeah, I don't really remember what that first moment was.
Yeah, I feel it's one where I could not tell you. I'm going to assume it was when I started just going through his movies.
That would make sense.
And I think I probably watched this and Prince of Darkness around the same time. Because those are two of the lesser ones that I hadn't seen at that point. But yeah, it just kind of, much like the titular fog, it just sort of creeps over you.
Yeah, it just sort of sneaks up on you.
At a certain point, you have watched the fog and you didn't even realize you did it. But we're going to take a quick break and we're going to play the trailer and then we're going to get into it.
John Carpenter's The Fog.
This is KAB, Antonio Bay. Stevie Wayne here, and let me be the first to wish Antonio Bay a happy birthday. We're 100 years old today. And keep a watch out for that fog bank heading in from the east.
100 years ago, between midnight and 1, something unknown came out of the fog. Now it has returned.
Oh, Jesus.
100 years ago, between midnight and 1, something unnatural came out of the fog. Now it has returned. 100 years ago, between midnight and 1, something evil came out of the fog. Now it has returned.
Who's there?
The fog.
Antonio Bay has a curse on it. We're all cursed. There's no water getting here, but something awful cold, Pin.
I think I'll go to Vancouver now.
Where's the fog now?
Well, it should be right outside my door now.
Oh, there's something different about this fog. Dan, stay away from the door! Someone listen to me!
Get inside and lock your doors. Close your windows. There's something in the fog. Stay away from the fog. From the creator of Halloween, the ultimate experience in terror and suspense. John Carpenter's The Fog, starring Adrienne Barbeau, Jamie Lee Curtis, John Houseman, Janet Leigh as Kathy Williams, and Hal Holbrook as Father Malone. The Fog. What you can't see won't hurt you. It will kill you. Between midnight and 1, it will find you.
Okay. The Fog. Directed by John Carpenter, written by John Carpenter and Deborah Hill. Starring Adrienne Barbeau, Jamie Lee Curtis, her mom, Janet Leigh, Charles Cyphers, Hal Holbrook, Nancy Loomis, Red the Bum from Back to the Future, and World's Sexiest Man 1980 to 1984, Tom Atkins.
Please tell me that's not true.
No, well, I mean, it is in the hearts of minds of apparently everyone making genre movies.
Oh, God.
Because he's in this movie, he's the guy in the truck who picks up young Jamie Lee Curtis, who instantly jumps into bed with him after sharing a road beer.
Like you do.
He's the lead.
Classic meet cute.
Yes. He's the lead in Halloween 3, playing a doctor who is a complete shithead.
Wait, is that him?
It is. Sure is. Who's also an alcoholic and not a great father, who also ends up sleeping with the daughter of the dead guy that he's investigating.
My mind was just blown that this is the same man.
Yeah. For whatever reason, the John Carpenter and his friends all think Tom Atkins is super hot.
Maybe that's what. That's who's voting him sexiest man, 1980 to 1984.
And Darcy from The Last Drive-In, I believe she also has a big Tom Atkins crush. But
fair enough.
Amanda, what happens in The Fog?
I got a nice short one for you again.
Oh, great.
An unearthly fog.
There is a fog.
There is fog. An unearthly fog rolls into a small coastal town exactly 100 years after a ship mysteriously sank in its waters.
That's man, really burying the lead there. That's not a particularly interesting summary.
Look, I'm telling you, I'm going to start writing these myself, these summaries, rather than trawling the internet for them, because they are either extremely over-involved or they are that.
A coastal New England town.
It's
once,
Northern California.
Sorry, a coastal Northern California town once had 20 to 30 minutes of rain. Great. Excellent.
And didn't have any more for 100 years. The end.
That was my big question this time. Is this the first time they've ever seen fog?
Yeah, these kids don't know what fog is.
Yeah.
Well, Clay, some things you'll find in this movie in addition to fog include immediate magic book. 2
movies in a row. Basically, within the first 10 minutes.
Magic book.
Magic book, giving you a little bit of explanation. I'm here for it.
Yes.
Every time.
A town full of excellent hair.
Yeah. This is a tiny little coastal village that seems to have 50 to 75 people in it, but one of them must be just the best barber on the West Coast.
The best 80s hairstylist to ever live.
Yeah.
Yes.
Adrienne Barbeau, fantastic.
Yep.
Janet Leigh, fantastic.
Yep.
You can tell Jamie Lee Curtis is from out of town because her hair is not great.
Just too, what did you use, a mullety?
It's a little mullety.
A little mullety. Yeah. Extremely polite murderous ghosts.
Yes, they always knock before they come in.
Yes, they're always going to knock on your door and wait until you let them in. Characters named after John Carpenter's friends.
Yeah, I really respect John Carpenter's
just naming a
the
guy
cast
Dan
listings.
O'Bannon.
Yeah, because it's clear that John Carpenter does not give a shit about character names.
Yeah.
And he is a man after my own heart in that respect.
I mean, you've shocked me by telling me you don't care about character names. I am just stunned.
But it's not only is it Dan O'Bannon, but Tom Atkins' character is named Nick Castle, who's the guy who plays the Shape in Halloween.
Yep.
And Charles Cypher's character, the one who has a crush on Stevie, the weather guy, is named Bennett Tramer, who is a friend of John Carpenter's, who he also used his name as Ben Tramer.
Ben Tramer.
In Halloween. The one
Isn't there also a Tommy Lee Wallace in this movie? Or Tommy
Wallace. Yes,
yeah.
Red the Drunk plays Tommy Wallace. Yeah. Ben Tramer, famously, I think the one character in Halloween no one has ever seen, because he's not in the original one. They talk about him, but he's not in it.
They even talk about him in the more recent
they do,
trilogy,
but
but you
never see him.
I kind of love that.
The closest you get is in Halloween 2, when he is dressed as Michael Myers, coincidentally, and he gets hit by a car and he explodes into a ball of fire. So we'll cover that when we get to Halloween 2.
Yes. You'll also find Electronic Realization by Dan Wyman.
Yes. This is probably, just to jump to the music section, this is, when we were watching this the other night, I was thinking this might be like my second favorite John Carpenter score.
Yeah.
It's really good.
It is really good.
And this is kind of when he's getting into his more electronic phase. And I don't know what else Dan Wyman has done, but after this, Carpenter starts working a lot with Alan Howarth. They do the music for Halloween 2 and 3. I think he works on Prince of Darkness or one of those other ones. I don't know, but it's clear that John Carpenter is into synthesizers at this time, but doesn't know how they work.
Yes,
so
but is excited to learn.
He needs someone else in there to do the electronic stuff.
And last but not least, 19th century ghosts with working knowledge of electrical infrastructure.
Yes. Yeah. They really, they knew to go all the way out to the electrical transformer station.
and how to shut everything down.
Yeah.
Yes.
I guess.
Look, they've had 100 years to study, so they did the homework.
Well, all I'm saying is, how come they didn't step in and help in the last 100 years. They seem to know how everything works. You'd think they would.
Why
be more
would they want to help?
I don't know. Just
They want to kill everyone.
no. They only want to kill 6 people, not six specific people.
Okay, that's the big plan, though. You can't let everybody know you're there. You
That's true.
gotta surprise them. You can't lose the element of surprise, or everyone's gonna move away from foggy areas.
Yeah, I guess.
Anyway,
The Fog.
Yes.
Is this John Carpenter's coziest movie? Because I think that's the
maybe
thing.
that's why I like
I think that's it.
this movie as I get older. Is that I'm slowing down and I just want to wear sweaters.
Yeah, like this is the first. Like I said to you, I was watching
Adrienne
this.
Barbeau, sexy MILF. Like that's the demographic.
I mean, I'm here for it.
Yeah.
That's,
Who isn't?
Right.
She's gorgeous.
But I said to you as we were watching this, I was like, I think I want to live in this movie because it's except for the murderous ghosts.
Yeah, and even
Very-
then, if they've already killed 6 people,
Yeah, this seems to be fine.
Then they're fine.
Yeah, very pleasant, picturesque place to live.
Yep.
Uh,
Everybody in the town seems to know each other, but no one seems to be an asshole.
yeah, there's no shitheads really.
Right, which is kind of surprising because I feel like in a lot of these small town set horror movies, there's always the one guy.
Yeah.
You know? And I mean guy in a generic, non-gendered way. It can be the super religious crazy lady, or it can be the dude who wants to redevelop the whole town and turn it into a resort.
Right. Or just, a jerk.
Yeah, exactly.
There's nobody's a jerk.
Yeah. No, everybody just seems like fairly normal people who just want to live their lives.
And I think that might be part of what the appeal is to this movie, because it starts off with the John Houseman, excuse me, famous older actor, friend of Orson Welles. Gee, excuse me. Literally just telling a ghost story about the ghosts who show up later in the movie.
Yes.
And it just really sets this, cozy campfire ghost story tone for the rest of the movie. And that's really all the movie is, for better or worse. I think as I was watching it last night, I was like, I like this, but I feel like there's something missing. And which we can get into later. But the thing that works is the general vibe of the whole thing.
Yeah.
Is just very cozy and like big sweater, hot chocolate kind of horror movie.
Yeah, and did you ever have the experience of sort of sitting around a fire or sitting outside at night as a kid and telling ghost stories? Was that ever like an actual thing that you...
Once or twice, but never, it wasn't a consistent thing.
I made it a consistent thing.
Yeah, I wish I had. But...
because I would go off and read, like scary stories to tell in the dark or whatever, and I would memorize some of those stories or urban legends or whatever and mash them all up, and I would sit outside as the sun went down with the kids in my neighborhood, and I would tell scary stories.
Yeah.
And I think there's something about that experience and then the way this movie opens and sets you up to kind of get back into that mindset of you're a kid and you're watching this scary story.
Right.
It's like that's the headspace this movie wants you to be in.
Yeah.
The same headspace as Adrienne Barbeau's son, whose name I'm blanking on.
Doesn't matter.
Because character names don't matter to John Carpenter, so they shouldn't matter to us. But I love that opening. Like, I love that it's that sort of... It starts with kind of the pocket watch.
Yep.
And then him setting the scene and the old-timey sea captain vibe of telling this story about a ghost ship.
What's amazing is that was a reshoot.
Oh, really?
Yeah. There was... at the first cut of the movie, John Carpenter and the studio executives realized that it wasn't working. Excuse me. It just wasn't scary enough, and it just wasn't really coming together. And so he went back and he did some reshoots. And the reshoot scenes are the opening campfire scene.
Yeah.
The scene in the morgue where the body comes after Jamie Lee Curtis.
Yep.
And the Adrienne Barbeau on top of the lighthouse at the end.
Ah.
Which is weird because if you take the first one and the last one out, the hell else happens in this movie? Like those are two. That's opening scene just really sets the mood so perfectly.
Yeah.
It's kind of hard to imagine the movie without it. And
yeah, because where do we start then? Does it start with Stevie?
I think so. Yeah. I think it starts with her doing her radio show.
Yeah.
And then if you take out the scene of her on the roof of the lighthouse, she just kind of disappears at the end of the movie because there's all the action happening in the church.
Right.
And then she's just kind of stuck in the lighthouse not doing anything.
Yeah, trying to kind of give them directions, and then after that, who knows?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because she has that there's a scene at the end where it feels like it is going to be her last scene for the climax where she into the microphone gives this like pretty good speech about like whatever I forget what it is, but and that very much feels like I'm stuck here, I can't do anything.
Yes, yeah.
It's all up to you guys now kind of thing. And then it switches over. So I understand the idea, but I don't think it works. I think having her in jeopardy as well, I think just keeps things moving and makes it more exciting. Yeah,
because I think one of the things that this movie tries to do, and I both like it, but I think it does it imperfectly, is to really keep it an ensemble movie.
Yeah.
Like, it tries really hard not to make any one character too much of the main character, but I think Stevie Wayne sort of is.
Which makes it even weirder.
Yeah.
That she's not involved at all at the end of the movie.
But I'm wondering if that's why adding that scene of her in peril as well kind of serves that purpose of heightening things enough, because she is sort of a focal point, like a constant throughout the film, whereas a lot of the other characters dip in and out for long periods. Even when she's not on screen, oftentimes we hear her voice.
Yes.
So she becomes this sort of constant companion, the same way a radio host that you listen to all the time would. So I think it's easy to sort of transfer the emotional attachment you want to have to a specific character onto her.
Yeah. Because, you've got her. She's the voice on the radio. And then you've got these other sort of vignettes that are going on with Jamie Lee Curtis and Tom Atkins. She's a hitchhiker, and he picks her up. And then you've the whole sort of thing that kicks everything off is Hal Holbrook as the priest,
Father Malone,
who finds,
just pray he's not in his cups,
who finds the magic book.
Deus Ex earthquake, just like
that's right,
shakes a stone loose
I think
from
the
church.
The ghosts probably gave it a little nudge. But, and it's the classic thing where he discovers some secret about the town, this town's secret shame or whatever.
Yep. That his ancestor is directly involved in.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so then you've got this other kind of plot line about they're celebrating the 100th anniversary,
the founding,
which is Janet Leigh and Nancy Loomis.
Yep.
And it's all kind of going at the same time, and I think that it's staggered pretty well.
Yeah.
I will say, overall, I feel like this movie needed another draft of the script. And I don't mean that. It's weird, right? Because like on the one hand, I think it works because it's more of like this impression of a campfire story.
Yeah.
But there's so many like little disparate elements of plot that have been thrown in there kind of haphazardly that it feels like they either need to strip that stuff out completely or spend a little more time with it. Basically, once it starts getting to like the lore and the mythology stuff, that's when it's like, all right, this is
there's some mildly contradictory stuff going on.
Yeah, and it's not a big deal. Like I'm not writing the movie off because for a magic xylophone reason or anything, but it's like you've got this secret that the priest discovers that is kind of its own thing until the end of the movie.
Yeah.
And then when the ghosts start showing up, they're like, we need to kill 6 people.
Right.
Not any specific 6, apparently, just 6. And when you get to the end, Hal Holbrook is telling this thing about how they, the people of the town, wrecked the ship on purpose. Is that what it is?
Yes, they lit a fire where there should have been a where there should not have been.
Yes.
So instead of a lighthouse light to keep them safe away from the rocks, they lit a fire somewhere, and that.
And then the ship crashed, and they stole the gold off the ship, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And so that stuff is cool, but at the end when Hal Holbrook is like, they're here to get me. My grandfather did this. It's like, no, they could have killed any 6 people.
Right, and that's kind of what they have been doing. I don't think Mrs. Cobritz...
Well, I was just going to say, unless they know something we don't, that all of the other 5 people they kill are directly connected to the people who did this 100 years ago. But they never say that.
Yeah, and I'm glad they don't.
Yeah.
Because I think the sense that it could be anybody, it works in this movie's favor. Like because, for instance, Stevie and her son are not from there. They're from Chicago.
Right.
And so if it was definitely the descendants of some of the original citizens of the town, then she and her son would be totally in the clear. And Jamie Lee Curtis would be totally in the clear.
Yeah.
Like there would be no worries for those characters.
Yeah.
And I think it works better that it could, like, I kind of made a joke that, like, wouldn't this movie be great if it ended because one guy had to make a late night snack run to the local bodega.
Yeah.
Like, he's just like, oh man, I really just want some Cheetos.
Yeah.
And he went to the store and was like, oh shit, and then got killed at the end.
If they killed that guy who worked at the supermarket who took the drink out of the orange juice and then put it back.
Oh, I wish I had remembered that, because that would have gone in my things you'll find. Mm-hmm. What Amanda says is the most horrifying thing she's ever seen this week is that man drinking the orange juice and then putting it back in the refrigerator case.
Yeah, that's pretty gross.
That you should go to a circle of hell for doing that. It's one of the most awful things I think a human could do.
But yeah, I think, like, if they had lost the 6 must die thing and just like, no, they're coming back. They're coming specifically for the gold. They're coming for Malone, but they're going to kill whoever they want.
Right,
like
right.
Then
or
I
even
think
they're not really coming for Malone. They're just going to kill some people and get their gold back.
Right.
They were going to kill people until 1 a.m.
Right.
Because it was midnight until 1 a.m. is when they're active, or it's written in the book. It's like midnight to 1 is when the dead is for the dead, or something like that. I know. I agree with you that the lore aspects of this are clearly fungible. Like they are adaptable for whatever the script needs them to be in that moment to get to the climax that it's clearly building to in the church.
And the thing is, though, like, I think you could look at this as a negative.
Mm-hmm.
And I think most people judging the script of this movie on its merits might look at it as a negative. But the way that it plays out is kind of like someone telling the story.
Yeah.
Who's just, like, kind of remembering the details.
Yeah, like sort of making it up as they go along, maybe.
Yeah.
Or they forgot some part, so they're going to have to insert it in later.
Which I'm sure...
how many times, like, I know I've done that, telling even dumb anecdotes in my life, and then I realize I'm halfway through it and I've forgotten a very important piece of information.
Yeah.
So I throw it in after I've given you way too much. Like, oh, and also we were doing whatever, and then it changed. You're like, oh, that's why. Yeah.
I have a tendency to, if I'm telling a story, if I'm relaying something that is true, and I don't have all the facts totally correct in my brain, I will use my narrative brain to create the most interesting story I can.
Just fill in the blanks in a way that feels more entertaining.
It's like, you know how movies say based on a true story? Yeah. That's how some of my stories end up being.
This is going to make me not believe a word that comes out of your mouth.
No, see, because it's not like that. It's not a lie. It's just like sometimes characters are combined.
Sure.
Sometimes one conversation didn't happen in that place; it happened in this other place.
Yeah, you're editing for clarity and style.
Sometimes I can't remember what got them to point A to point B from point A, and so I'll throw in a car chase or something.
Man, there are a lot of car chases in your stories.
Yeah, surprising amount.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think if you said this to John Carpenter, he would probably tell you to go fuck yourself. And not like I shouldn't say that.
More in like you're overthinking.
Yes,
it.
he would probably roll his eyes because I
Yes.
know that he doesn't love this movie. I think he's not totally happy with it.
Sure.
And I think if you were to tell him that reading, he would probably roll his eyes and be like, "Come on, get."
Yeah.
It's just not that. It's not. It's you're way overthinking it, like you said.
Yeah.
But it is part of what makes it kind of charming.
Yeah, and I think it's one of those movies where when you're watching it, that stuff doesn't feel like it matters as much.
Yes, that's something I'm starting to key into a bit more. Like I recently saw Vertigo. For the first time in a very long. I've only seen it once.
That.
Well, you can borrow it if you want.
Oh, thank you.
I went to see it at the Somerville Theater.
Mm-hmm.
They had it was a 35 millimeter print of it, which apparently is very rare. For reasons I could go into, like the guy who did before the movie, but I won't because his speech was like 40 minutes long.
Oh boy.
But I had only seen it once, and I didn't really remember much about it. And so I'm watching this. I can't tell you the last time I was so engaged with a movie because I had no idea where the movie was going. I'm
really surprised because I feel like we not that long ago had a conversation where we talked about how you don't really like Hitchcock. I think when we did The Birds.
Yeah. I think this is a case where I think I might be might have been viewing his movies wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Because
one of these days I'm going to make you watch Rebecca.
I have it. I want to watch it. I just haven't gotten around to it.
Does that count as a horror movie? I don't think it does.
But I started to. I'm looking at Vertigo. I'm looking at The Birds, and I'm looking at Psycho, which are the three that I know Psycho very well, and the other two I'd seen recently.
Yeah.
And I start piecing these together in my brain, going like, oh, I kind of get it now.
Yeah.
He has a tendency to really kind of throw you a curveball, and it ends up not being the movie you think you're watching.
Yeah.
And Vertigo is a really good example of that because I don't know what the fuck is going on in this movie. Have you seen Vertigo?
Yes. It's been a while, but
yeah.
Yes.
When like I'm watching this and I'm like, what is happening? What is happening? I'm watching Jimmy Stewart get further and further into this obsession. And then like they hit you with the big turn.
Yep.
About midway through. And I go, I don't know where this is going now. And then it just gets weirder and weirder. And
such a weird movie. I love it.
I'm watching I bought it on Blu-ray, and I was listening to the commentary by the late Billy Friedkin. I don't know why he's doing the commentary, but
why not?
I'd listen to that guy read the phone book. And he's talking about how in that movie the logic of the story is completely unimportant.
Yeah.
And it's the kind of movie where you don't think of, like, it seems like the type of movie where logic is important, but it's really not. And there's, I think story logic is not as important as a lot of people think it is.
Yeah.
Because we were watching Joe Bob's Halloween special where they were talking about Halloween.
Yes.
The other night. And as I was watching it, I'm going like, man, this stuff just doesn't logically make any sense. Like how people move so fast.
I think Joe Bob even talks about that. Like they're only finding the car now.
Yeah.
How are they only finding the car now? That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, and there's the thing where like they go to the hardware store that's been broken into.
Her
Sheriff Brackett is like, yeah, somebody broke in and stole a knife and a rope and a Halloween mask. It's like,
so obviously it's kids.
That's where Michael stole his mask from, right? But he's had the mask for like 4 scenes before that.
Yep.
So has that alarm just been going off for like 2 hours?
Who knows?
But so it doesn't matter though.
Right.
It's all about the feeling, and it's
Yes.
all about emotionally dragging you through this story.
Yeah, and it's giving you the breadcrumbs you need to sort of build that atmosphere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's not to say that logic isn't important, because it is when you want it to be.
Sure.
It's not always important. I think story structure and story logic are two very different things.
Yeah.
And this is a movie where I think it's, if you try to break it down logically scene by scene, you're really missing the point of it.
Yeah. Excuse me. Yeah, I totally agree. And I think that's maybe why I didn't like it as much the first time I saw it, is that it felt thin to me in places, and I didn't really understand, like, well, wait, why are they doing this? And why does Stevie sort of latch onto the fog as the problem?
Right.
And then, like, why is he going out to try and get the boat? And, like, if I didn't have super clear answers for everything, I just kind of was like, well, then that doesn't make sense.
Right.
But in a lot of cases, it can make sense if you allow it.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, obviously, Nick works on that boat, too.
Right.
Because he even says so he decides he needs to go out and find the boat that's gone missing overnight, that we know the ghosts have attacked and killed the 3 men on board, but the town doesn't know that. And he goes out and he brings Jamie Lee Curtis with him and a couple other guys, and they search the boat. And as they're when he goes to the docks to go out, he says, Al was supposed to meet me here at this time, and he's not here. The boat's not here. What the hell's going on? So it's obvious he's involved working with these guys. And then he and Jamie Lee Curtis talk, and she's like, well, what is it like fishing? So he's a fisherman too.
Right.
He's
right.
he's part of the crew of this boat. He talks about how he's cleaned it, but, like, we don't need the whole, well, you know, my father worked on this boat and da-da-da-da. And
Nick, I haven't seen you down here at the dock since the last time you shipped out.
Right. So I think what I'm trying and getting at very poorly is that there's a line. Like, if you try too hard to make everything ironclad in all of this logic and have everything be really explicit, you run the risk of dipping into that mode.
Yeah.
Of, like, well, you know, Stevie had a really hard time when her husband was hit by that bus, and that's why she had to leave Chicago and move here.
Stevie has one scene with her son in this movie.
Yeah.
They are not together for the entire run of this movie except for one scene.
Yep. But you know she loves him.
Right.
She does, because
she works a horrible schedule all for him.
Yes. But do you know what I'm saying? Like I would rather a movie err on the side of withholding a little too much and maybe accidentally introducing some inconsistencies rather than trying to over-explain every element.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think there's not to get on my old man soapbox here,
Oh
but
God, here he goes. He's stepping up.
I think generally
Kids these days?
No, just people in general. I feel like media literacy is at an all-time low, personally.
Probably.
Where I see so many people talk about movies or comics or just stories in general, where if things aren't laid out incredibly clear for them, it quote-unquote doesn't make sense and is quote-unquote bad.
Yeah.
And
there's a lot of litigating on the internet about
stupid shit.
Yeah.
And these things like the Cinema Sins YouTube videos. I know people really like Pitch Meeting, but I don't really care for Pitch Meeting for the same reason.
And my husband is turning off this
I'm sorry.
episode now.
I'm sorry, but it's like every one of those things is the same, like the delivery is the same, and the jokes are, one of them goes, wait, what? And then after that, somebody goes, why? And he goes, because of the plot. And it's like, I fucking hate that stuff. And it's like, it's this level of, it's this way of looking at stuff that just, I don't know why people enjoy it, because it just seems miserable.
I was just thinking the same thing. It does tend to suck the joy out of stuff.
Yeah.
Like if you're not willing to sort of allow yourself to get drawn into a story, then kind of why are you watching it?
And I've been that person. You know, when I feel like it's the kind of thing that once you start getting into this stuff, then you think you're the smartest person in the world. And that's when you start doing this stuff. I remember being the first time I watched Halloween, being like, I don't know, man. He drives how does he know how to drive a car? That's pretty stupid. Yeah. And now I'm like, who cares if he knows how to drive a car? I do think I will say that is a point in the movie that I think
We'll get to it when we do the movie.
Even the people who made that movie think it's very silly he knows how to drive a car because they talk about it in the movie.
Okay, Clay. Okay. Simmer down.
Anyway, but it's that kind of thing, you know, where it's
Step off the soapbox, please.
So far down. But yeah, I think there's a certain, not to sound like Nicole Kidman here, but movies are
wow,
where
how
heartache
did you get
feels
that
good.
Silvery suit on so fast.
Yes. Heartache feels good in a place like this. But they're just, it's all magic, right? It's an illusion.
Right.
And they are very dreamlike in general.
Yes.
And so I think
the mood is more important.
Yes. I think that is a plus, not a minus.
Yeah.
And so as long as you can operate in that space honestly and not doing it for the sake of the fact that you know your movie doesn't make any sense. Yeah. I think stuff like this doesn't bother me as much as it used to.
Yeah. Yeah, I absolutely agree, and I think it's easy to slip into that sort of overly critical mode on things, and I definitely still do it to this day. So, no judgment from here.
Yeah, I know. I like to say that I don't, but I do.
Everybody does. But one of the things I really like about this movie, because you were saying like operating in this mode in kind of an honest way. I feel like all the characters are kind of honest.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like they feel like real people. They don't feel like caricatures. They don't feel like symbols. You know, a lot of these movies, it can be really easy to start trying to pin sort of like a moral meaning beneath different characters and their behaviors. These people just feel like humans, which I think is part of this movie's charm, is that you kind of know them in a way, even if you don't. Like I've never met a beautiful radio host. I've never met a radio host at all. We're not on the radio.
It's basically internet radio.
It's different.
Okay.
I'm sorry to dash your hopes and dreams. You can take off the Adrienne Barbeau wig.
I'm not wearing a wig.
This is all natural, baby.
I should say it's not the hair that's fake.
But do you know what I mean? Like I think because these people feel so normal, it makes the bizarreness and the spookiness of the ghosts feel more remarkable. I think the only recurring character that is a little over the top is Father Malone.
Yeah.
He especially at the end, he leans a little too much into the mania.
Yeah. Well, one of the things I was going to ask you is, you know, anytime this movie comes up, most of the time anyway, at least my experience in conversation talking about this movie, is I'll say, you know, The Fog, and they'll go, oh yeah, I love that movie. That's the one where they're all in the supermarket, right?
Yes.
Like, no.
Yes.
That's The Mist.
That is The Mist.
Now, what The Mist does, that this movie doesn't do, is it traps everybody in the supermarket.
Yep.
And then it becomes about how those characters interact with each other.
Yes.
Yada, yada, yada.
And people do in that movie kind of I shouldn't say kind of, they very much on purpose sort of become symbolic.
Right.
Of bigger modes of thinking and bigger ways of relating to other humans and operating in the world.
And they very specifically don't do that in this movie, where everybody gets to the church eventually, but it's for like 10 minutes. It's not. And
by everybody, we just mean the main characters.
Yeah, the 8 people they could pay to be in the movie.
Yes.
But it's. Do you feel like it is missing something by not going the other way? Do you think going that other way would be too obvious? Because I guess what I'm kind of dancing around is when I was saying before that structure is more important than logic.
Yeah.
Right. I think for me, the problem with this movie is when I get to the end, I feel like whatever this was driving towards is not wholly satisfying, because they do, the ghosts show up and then they start killing people, and then everybody goes to the church.
Yeah.
And then very quickly it's like, here's your gold cross back, and then they're just gone. And I don't really know. I'm not really finding like a narrative, a real payoff in there for me. And I don't know if that's because the stuff about the town screwing these guys over isn't really gotten into, or if it's because you don't get enough time with these characters. I don't know what it is, but it feels like it's like it gets to this point and then it's just kind of over.
Yeah, I get what you're saying, and I think part of it might be because the thing that the ghosts seem to want, that seems to do the trick, is the giant gold cross.
Right.
Which is just, it looks like it's just been sitting in this church.
Yeah, just hanging out.
Just hanging, like a solid gold cross that's huge, by the way.
I will say, I do think, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, please.
I forgot that it's like hidden in the wall.
Mm-hmm.
I think it would be much better if that was just out in front of the church, like in the
it was just part of the sanctuary. Yeah, probably.
Anyway, sorry. Go ahead.
Right, because it feels weird that what the town ultimately has to give up in order to be absolved is something the town didn't even know it had and was not benefiting from.
Right.
Like, I almost feel like it would have been... I think maybe part of what it's missing is that the town needs to give up something it's not willing to.
Sure. Yeah.
And there's a push and a pull between, but it's just money versus human lives, or we need that money for the town to survive.
Yeah, you never get the sense that this money somehow is the thing that saved the town. Or it's...
Or at this point in time, like we were saying, the cross is hidden.
Yeah.
It's not... it's not all the sack of gold that every now and again they pull out a couple doubloons to go cash in at the gold the cash for gold exchange so that they can keep the lights on. Like
you could probably get into a weird like Holocaust metaphor as far as...
I think you absolutely could.
Yeah.
That actually that occurred to me because I've been, I don't know, I'm a messed up person who was revisiting some of the stuff I read for my thesis, which was about the Holocaust.
That stuff
anyway.
that you when it was over, you're like, I can't wait to never read about that stuff ever again.
Look, like I said, I am a masochist.
Mm-hmm.
No, I think you could absolutely draw a lot of parallels to that of killing a quote unquote undesirable population for the benefit of the quote unquote regular people.
Right.
I do want to pivot a little bit because I find it really funny, all of the echoes of the birds.
Well,
in this movie,
I was going to mention,
speaking of Hitchcock,
the when Nick goes down to the dock, it's in Bodega Bay, which is where the birds takes place.
Yes, and you also have a plot of a young woman coming to town and everything starts to go to hell.
That's true. Yes.
Yeah. Jamie Lee Curtis shows up on the side of a road one night. And all of a sudden windows are getting shattered and car horns are going off and ghosts are coming to kill people.
Which just goes to show you, women should never change towns. One town, whole life.
Janet Leigh's family line are harbingers of the end times.
Yes.
Yes.
But yeah, I think there's just something oddly unsatisfying about it. Because even at the end, it feels like when the ghost shows up again to the last moment where they kill Malone, that feels pretty tacked on.
It does. It does. That's actually not my favorite part of the movie, and I don't really... I kind of wish they'd either done it when he was like, take me, I'm the one you want, and just were like, sure, if you're offering... Or they left him alive to just kind of deal. Because I almost think it's a cop-out for Malone. Like, I think he feels guilty. It's his ancestors that did this. He's literally been living in the house that this gold built. And I think kind of just letting him die in penance is maybe a little too clean and not, it's a little too straightforward for me in a way.
Yeah.
I will say though, there are a lot of creepy moments in this movie that really work for me.
I think everything.
I want to talk about the spooky stuff.
Yeah, let's definitely do that. I want to say that everything they do in this movie is worth it for that one shot of the ghost pirates in the church.
Yeah.
Where they just do that hard cut to them just all standing there with the fog at their feet.
Yeah.
Awesome. Worth the whole price of admission.
I mean, I even love the much earlier scene where they get on the seagrass, where they get on the boat. Where we see the ghosts for the first time.
Yeah.
That whole sequence where it's the three guys out at night, they're kind of just drinking beers and hanging out. And then the ship comes right up to them and they see this huge old galleon kind of drift by and then disappear. They hear a splash. And then the next thing that one of them turns and there's like three figures in the fog on the boat. And you never see them clearly. And then they slaughter the crew. And it's really, it's not gory, but I think it's still really well done. And when they kill that last guy with like the ice pick kind of thing to the face.
The double tap is the thing that gets me on that one. Because usually it's like, all right, one stab in the face, sure.
Right.
But
or
it's the
even
fact
if
they
he'd
go,
gone like crazy and just kept going, you'd be like, all right.
Yeah, it's just that
calm
it's like
down.
pop, pop.
Yeah,
Ugh.
2 quick and efficient jabs, and it's one for each eyeball.
Yeah.
That works. I think that works really well.
Yeah, I guess Carpenter specifically didn't want it bloody because he was actually trying to go for a PG rating. And it did not work. So
yeah, fell a little
well,
short.
I should say it's not that it didn't work. It's just that the movie didn't work as it was, so they had to beef it up a bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that stuff. I think one of my favorite bits is when Charles Cypher gets killed, and they kind of just they have the camera further back into the room, and you just see him get pulled into the fog.
Yeah,
you know, and you don't actually. I think that maybe you do get them see him get stabbed in the neck or something.
I don't think oh, maybe he gets one quick one and then he's pulled back.
Yeah.
But he's still screaming.
Yeah, it's
when he's
just,
pulled back into the fog.
It's not. There's not a lot of blood in this movie,
No.
if any at all, and it's pretty effective. You know, he knows how to do this stuff, obviously.
Yeah.
And the DP on this again, like on Halloween, is Dean Cundy, who is fantastic and went on to do Back to the Future and Jurassic Park, and he was a pretty big name through most of the 80s.
Yeah.
And the Carpenter look is the Dean Cundy look.
Yeah.
You know, he did Halloween, The Thing. I think he did Escape from New York. Could be wrong. I think after The Thing, they I think he got a little he might have priced out of John Carpenter movies.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's fantastic.
Yeah. No, I mean it looks amazing. The whole movie. It really.
Yeah.
I also love the bit where is the son Andy?
I don't know. Sure.
I know it doesn't matter, but it's bothering me because she yells his name on the radio like 7,000 times.
Yes.
But he finds the piece of wood from the Elizabeth Dane,
that's pretty
and
cool.
she has it in the studio with her, and it starts dripping water into the promo tape, and then that creepy ass voice comes over the tape and starts saying it's like an albatross around your neck, it's a millstone, and all this. Like, I love that shit. I live for that shit. I think it's great.
That voice, I believe, is Tommy Lee Wallace.
Oh, really?
He does the voice of the commercials in Halloween. I believe he does the voice of the commercials in this. He also does the Silver Shamrock voiceover in Halloween 3.
Where it's like little kids.
Yes,
get your masks
which
on.
he also directed that. So,
oh right, I always forget that.
Yeah, that stuff is really fun, and the special effect of the wood starting to like bleed seawater is really cool.
I think that's really well done. I'm sure there's an easy explanation for how they do it, but it looks so good. Like it just kind of starts to well up in that way where it fills the carved letters first and then spills over.
It's again, old man soapbox here, but
gotta take that thing away from you.
It's just like stuff like that is stuff they'd all do in CGI now, and it's not as satisfying.
Yeah,
you know,
and it feels like mildly unnecessary.
Yeah,
just like how hard is it to
They had like
rig up this prop.
$5 million to make this movie. Just take out half the lights you're using and put the lighting budget towards the special effects.
But yeah, I'm trying to think if there's anything else I wanted to touch on with this one.
The one fun bit is the head pirate, Captain Blake, is Rob Bottin, the special effects artist.
Oh.
Because he is apparently 6'5". And
Holy shit.
Yeah, Carpenter was like, great, you're in the movie. This is an interesting time for John Carpenter, because this is after Halloween. Both he and Jamie Lee Curtis after Halloween kind of dip. Carpenter does,
and not in the like colloquial way of like they left the room.
No, and not like in like a dance way.
Okay.
Yeah, they're just having a nice dance. And then
and a dip and
whoop. Where after Halloween, Carpenter does 2 TV movies. One of them is called
Yeah, please tell me what that's
Someone's
called.
Watching Me. And the other, much more important, is called Elvis. And is the Elvis Presley story, which is where John Carpenter and Kurt Russell work together for the first time. So
how many times have you watched that?
I've actually never seen it.
What?
I know. I very much would like to watch it, but I have not seen it.
What?
I'm sorry. I only get so much time in the day.
You need to make time for that. Is too on brand for you.
Do you know how many Italian movies there are? I have to get through those
but
first.
But there's only one John Carpenter's Elvis with Russell. Like,
see, what's funny about that, though?
You have to watch
I know,
it.
I do. What's funny about that is you say that, and it sounds like something that's a joke now.
Yes.
Like a fake trailer for John Carpenter's Elvis starring Kurt Russell.
Yes.
Very different than the movie they actually made.
Yeah.
I have heard that Kurt Russell's very good in it, though, but I do want to watch it.
I'm sure he is.
But he does 2 TV movies, and then he gets a 2-picture deal with Avco Embassy for this and Escape from New York are the 2 movies. I've been trying to look this up because I know there was something going on here, but I can't find exactly what it was. I'm pretty sure one of the conditions for getting the money to do this movie was that he had to do Halloween 2.
I feel like I've heard this same anecdote.
Yeah.
I don't remember
This is
exactly
one of those stories
where.
that are based on a true story.
Yes. And then the car chase happened.
Yes.
No, but I believe it. I feel like I've heard this same story.
Yeah.
But I don't remember the details.
Which is why he never wanted to do Halloween 2, and
Yeah.
famously he didn't direct it, obviously, and he didn't know how to do it, and so he got a 6-pack of beer, got wasted, and then just wrote Halloween 2.
That's how you do it.
Yeah. That's how you create a franchise, I guess. But also for Jamie Lee Curtis, after Halloween, she was kind of expecting her career to take off.
Yeah.
But she also, the only thing she did between Halloween and this are 2 episodes of TV. She was on an episode of Buck Rogers, and she was on an episode of The Love Boat with her mother.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're both kind of in this weird, after they have this big success
They've hit
with Halloween.
such a high, and then they've dipped into such a low.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But after this, they both kind of launch into their renaissance.
Yeah.
Because after The Fog is when you get, it's basically the John Carpenter era.
Yeah.
Where you get,
because all of his subsequent movies kind of come quick.
Yeah. And you've got, after The Fog, you've got Escape from New York, The Thing, Christine, Starman, Big Trouble in Little China, Prince of Darkness, They Live, all in a row. And then he does Memoirs of an Invisible Man, and everything goes to hell. But for most of the 80s, he's just, hitting dingers. So I think that's going to do it for The Fog. I've hit the randomizer button. Beep, boop, boop, beep, boop, 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 boop. We've landed on number 11, which is Bride of Frankenstein.
Ooh.
So I'm excited to be going back to the Universal Monsters once again.
Yes.
Yeah, Bride of Frankenstein. That's I'm really looking forward.
Did you just have a moment? Did your brain skip?
Yeah, I'm just
just thinking about her.
Yeah.
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 Hearts in your eyes.
Yeah.
The one that got away.
That
The
hairdo.
bride of
I'm really
that
looking
Marge Simpson hairdo.
looking forward to talking about that one, because talk about a movie that's got some weird shit in it that most
I
people
don't think I've ever seen it.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm very excited if you have not seen Bride
I
of
feel like
Frankenstein.
I've just seen like clips of it
Yeah.
or bits and pieces here and there, but I don't think I've ever like sat down and watched this movie.
Excellent. That's great to hear.
Good.
Perfect. If you'd like to support the show, you can head over to patreon.com/thepenskyfile, where Amanda and I are covering video nasties this year.
Yes.
We have done 9. October, we are doing Last House on the Left, which is, a doozy, which Amanda's very excited about.
Yeah.
And our last 2 after that are...
Please tell me they're less egregious.
No, we've got Lucio Fulci's Zombie
Ooh, yeah.
and Evil Speak, which is...
Ooh, okay.
Do you know Evil Speak?
I know of it,
Yeah.
but I have not seen
It's
that.
Clint Howard at military school who contacts the devil through a computer.
I cannot wait. I've actually really wanted to see that for a while.
It's really fun.
That was in my there's a whole essay on that in my Satanic Panic.
Oh,
book.
is there really?
Yes, there is.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had never heard of it until they did it on The Last Drive-In. I saw a lot of people criticizing the last season of The Last Drive-In for various
¿Por qué?
reasons. A lot of people don't seem to like Darcy for some reason.
What?
Yeah, I don't know. But
They don't have eyes or brains or hearts.
Yeah. I saw a few people being like, these movies are... Why you just showing movies that nobody wants to see? And I'm like, I have found so many interesting movies through this show. Movies that I never would have looked up or been aware of in 1,000 years.
Yeah. And also the whole point of it is sort of that you're getting the commentary. Like even if the movie itself, even if you're watching like Grizzly, which is not a great movie, it is fun.
Right.
Like it's enjoyable. It has its moments.
And like how many times do you really want to hear somebody talk about the movie you've watched 1 billion times?
Apparently 1,000,000,001.
Yeah, I guess. I say that as someone who just watched Joe Bob talk about Halloween again.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
what do I know?
Yeah.
Anyway, thank you guys for listening. Thank you, Amanda.
Thank you, Clay.
And we'll see you next time.
Bye, everyone.